Welcome back to the Evolve podcast. I'm Rhiannon.
And I'm your better host, Brendan.
All right, we'll leave it at that. But for now, pretty much what this podcast is all about is self-development, health and fitness, and our journey starting as brand new business owners.
Let's go. Make sure that you share this around because I'm telling you right now, this is the best podcast you've ever seen.
Enjoy, guys. Ciao. Well, welcome,
Thank you.
Mr. Seib.
Yeah, you said my name right.
I did?
Yeah,
Oh, good.
How many people say it right?
Seib is the common one.
Yeah.
You get
Seib.
the ones sometimes. Seib's the main one. But you know what's funny? Seib is actually the proper announcement. The proper pronouncement.
Seib.
Really?
Yeah, because it's German and Austrian, and
Yeah.
we went over there, and everyone was calling us Seib, and we're like,
Yeah.
it's Seib. They're like, no, you're wrong.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, okay. I suppose
You got proven
it's
wrong
your
by your own
language, so
fist.
yeah. We're like, fair enough. It's just the lazy Aussie pronunciation. So.
Yeah. Have you done a bit of traveling?
So with mum and dad when I was a kid, we've been heaps to Europe.
Yeah.
Been to the UK a few times. Went back with my grandfather as well a couple of times, which was pretty cool. But I was only literally a teenager and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
it wasn't I've only been probably say traveling once in the last 10 years, properly.
Yeah.
Because you get into your 20s and you're at uni, and
Yeah.
then there's no money in the bank account,
Yeah.
and then you
Yeah.
go to Europe once, and you're like, "Cool, that's me for 15 years."
yeah. So true. I feel like everyone goes through that cycle.
Yeah,
They
100%.
do that one Europe trip
Yeah.
and they're like, yeah, I'm not doing this for another 10 years, 15 years.
Yeah. Well, me and Liv are going to try and do it next year, but I'm like,
Yeah.
let's see how we go. Hopefully we can, because I'm dying to go back.
And
But,
you went to America for college football.
yeah. So that was straight out of high school. So we went August the year after. Yeah. So basically I had about 9 months here after I graduated, and then went over there it ended up being a year and a half.
Yeah.
The idea was that obviously we were going to go for the full 4 years. And then what ended up happening was after my second season, because their seasons over there are in their first semester, which is the end of the calendar year.
Yep.
And then at the end of that semester, I wasn't able to transfer to a bigger college because I started off at a 2-year college,
Yep.
like one of the junior ones and the smaller ones.
Yep.
Then the idea was to obviously then transfer to a big one and then play there. But that didn't end up happening for a lot of reasons out of my control, which I suppose is normally a bit of a cliche, the good old I retired because of an injury, it was someone else's fault. But no, this one it was a bit complicated. But the long story short was over there they heavily rely on your highlight reels, so a 5-minute highlight reel. And
Okay.
when my first season there, we had a
Is that
parent.
actually how they judge you?
Literally off a highlight reel,
Yeah, that's
which is a
right.
bit
No
wild
way.
considering your 5 minutes across the course of a season or two, it's only going to get the best of the best.
Yeah.
And you could be awful other than 5 minutes of 2 seasons, and they will go, "Oh, we like you," and then you go over and so it's a bit wild. But
That
the thing
is so weird.
yeah, but I suppose you think about it, a lot of their money and scouting networks are going to be in all baseball, your gridiron, all of that stuff, the basketball, because they're the main sports, right? They're not.
So football they don't really care as much about.
No, they don't care at all. So, and it's a lot harder to get a scholarship as well because
Yeah.
you've got most of the budgets towards those
Sports
those
rather
sports.
than football.
And also the way it works is the schools have to have an equal budget between men and women. So, and women don't have the gridiron team, for instance, and that's 50 dudes. There's a lot of guys. So that's a lot of budget, and we're talking a lot of money. They'll put half the team on full rides on the big schools, I reckon.
That's crazy.
And stuff like
Oh,
that.
wow.
This influence of sport from such a young age has obviously gotten you to the point where you are now, chiropractor. Tell us a little bit about your journey, starting from coming back from America, and then where it all led to from there.
Yeah, so I should probably go back before America really quickly because in high school was actually I was wanting to do aeronautical engineering. So I was really I really enjoyed engineering and physics and stuff. I was quite good at it.
Yeah.
And so I was going to go into aeronautical engineering. But because of the way that profession is, from what I heard from somebody that was inside the profession, it's very difficult to get a civilian job outside of uni, when you leave uni. So he basically suggested go join the Air Force, do it, and then you commit for 7 years, leave, and then you're employable.
Oh, wow.
So I was literally this close to doing it. And then
So you would have joined the Air Force to be
Yeah.
able to get into aeronautical engineering.
100%. So
Wow,
because
what
that
a
was
track.
that was the best.
Do you still have to do the course as well?
So yeah, you go to Canberra for 3 years for uni.
Yep.
They pay your salary and pay you your uni, and then you just commit 7 years at minimum. So
Wow.
it's a relatively
Is it
good
because
deal.
it's a niche? Like it's a very small field?
Yeah. And I think, I don't know what the evolution of it's been, but I imagine especially now with AI and stuff, I imagine there's a lot of jobs that would be relatively redundant within that scope. But I think as well, just you think about it, how many airlines there are. Like, it's not like there's 1,000 different airlines, you know, and then also there's, not a huge amount you'd probably be able to do with it. So it would just depend. But so I basically was nearly going to do that. Then the trial came around to go to America, got selected, and then I just basically went, all right, well, we're going to go there and stuff that. And then at the time,
So it became football focused.
Yeah, exactly. So it just went, how can you pass up that opportunity? Like, you may as well go and do it.
Yeah.
So I went over there, did that obviously, and then came home and had no idea what I wanted to do, because that sort of not really love, but that interest in aeronautical engineering fell away pretty quickly when I went to America, because you stopped doing it.
Because you flipped into the football
Yeah,
line.
exactly. So then I ended up just going to sports science, because I was like, what am I going to do? Well, sport's been consistent. And, you know, a lot of people go into business degrees when they don't know what to do. And they're like, I'll just do a business degree, right? And I'm like,
I know so many people have just done that.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. And I was like, well, I'll go into sports science, because to me, that's like the sports equivalent of a business degree. Like, that's like the generic thing that anyone that's into sport just starts at.
Yep.
And very quickly, as soon as we did our first labs, first lab subjects with all the data and stuff, I just went, nah, this ain't for me. I was like, I'm not about
Oh,
this.
really? You didn't
Yeah, like I don't know, because most of the problem is the testing itself was fun, but then sitting and analyzing the data, I kind of that just wasn't me. I got bored. Like, I just got bored. So, and then also one of our assignments, I remember, was pretty funny. We decided, it was a group assignment, we decided to do wingate testing. And I don't know if you guys ever done wingate testing, like properly.
Yeah.
Oh, it's brutal. So in class, all 4 of us did wingate testing. You do 30 seconds on the stationary bike at a set resistance, and it's 110% for 30 seconds. And like, to the point where to do it properly, you need to be at that 100% point the entire 30 seconds. And so all 3 of the other boys are just like screaming at you the whole time. Like,
Chain you up.
Yeah. So one of the boys passed out, 2 of the boys threw up. I was like just on the floor dazed, and I was like that close to throwing up as well. And I just went, why did we pick it? It was so
You picked
stupid.
the
In
worst
hindsight,
one.
yeah. To be fair, the results were interesting, but because one of the guys was a sprinter, and then you had a couple of guys were, if I remember right, they're not that they were unfit, but they were like just not crazy into sport.
Yeah.
And then you had me, which was I was a footballer, so you had a very big dynamic. It was interesting seeing the differences. Like the sprinter, his peak power production and rate of force development was insane, and he wasn't even like a professional sprinter. He just did it because he loved it.
Yeah.
And then you had me, my peak and rate of force development was a lot less. But then
But you could hold it for a lot longer.
I could hold my peak for ages, like almost I think it was like 15 seconds or something I could hold before,
wow.
and then it started to just slowly drop. Whereas he went up fast and dropped fast, you know.
Yes,
So
yep.
yeah, which makes sense, right?
Which makes sense,
Yeah.
sprinter.
So, but anyways, then at the end of that degree, I had no idea what I wanted to do, and my mum at the start of my final year, 3rd year, my mum suggested osteo because one, she was a massage therapist, and that's where I had a bit of interest in that. Apparently, I was always like asking her questions, and I was always curious, which I don't remember because I was young at the time. But then being in a footballer, and I was in the clinic like 4 or 5 times a year with injuries. Like every year, I was just injury prone.
Injury prone, yeah.
Yeah. So
With your mum?
No, with the osteopath. I was good. I got treated by a chiro and an osteo. It was originally a chiro. He left, and then I went to the osteo, who was he was the head guy in the clinic. But they all treated basically the same. They were very similar. And so then my mum basically suggested osteo. Mulled that over, quite liked it, but then I had to move to Lismore or Melbourne to do the degree.
Oh, really?
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
so I was
that would
like,
have been tough.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm not going to go move after I've just come back from America, and I just had no money. I wasn't.
How
gonna
would you
go into
explain the difference between an osteo and a chiro? In that sense.
So nowadays, I tell people if the practitioners are trying to be evidence-based and quality practitioners, they're basically the same thing. Same with physio. Like, it's basically the same thing. It's
So
more
physio, chiro, osteo.
Is
Is it just those 3 or is there more?
there's those 3 within that sort of
Rehab
style, that rehab and hands-on profession. And then it depends on the practitioner on what their influences have been on what sort of bias of treatment they have.
Yeah.
Like for me, because the osteo I went to, he was very, very hands-on with a little bit of rehab and probably not really enough. And then, so I was very hands-on, but now that I've come into the profession, I've realized that's only like that percentage of it, and you need the rehab. And then that's where physios, they get a lot of the rehab stuff, but they also learn a lot of the hospital rehab, right?
Yes.
So whereas
It's like
chiros
in and out type
yeah, so chiros and osteos, we're all musculoskeletal, and then not that physios aren't, but they just learn the extra bit. So then obviously in a uni degree of 2 years, you only got a certain amount of time.
Yep.
So yeah, and then it just depends on who's your mentor, what's your influences, stuff like that. So
what you specialize in, what you further education in and stuff like that.
yeah, exactly. So, but I mean, I realized pretty quickly after I graduated that you have to include rehab. But then the difficult part is when you go into rehab and you don't have any sort of training, you've got no baseline for it other than just sort of my own experiences, it gets tricky at first because it's such a big world. I mean, you guys know it with fitness. It's the same thing. There's just
huge.
So many ways to do things, so much research. And then this research is kind of weak, but people kind of utilize it. Then this research is kind of good. But then there's conflicting evidence, and it's just like become a nightmare
And some
sometimes.
practitioners will say this is good, others will say this is good.
Yeah.
And you're like, where do I stand on this?
Yeah, exactly. So, but but basically the main thing is difference, I'd probably say, which I'll probably be wrong on this from a physio and osteo standpoint, considering I'm not one. But from a chiropractic perspective, the whole sort of philosophy is based around the nervous system and how that interacts through the joints and how it manipulates the body in space and whatnot. And when I say manipulate, I'm talking about like movement, not necessarily joint manipulation.
Yep.
But then osteos, from what I remember my old boss saying, was more around like the blood flow, so producing blood, getting blood to come to the area for healing and whatnot. And also just trying to improve generalized function in the sense, like from what I remember, it was something like, for instance, if you can't move your head to the left, okay, well, we're not going to worry about what segment is not doing its job or what segment's not moving, because realistically, how can you tell? Let's just get the head moving there and get it moving pain-free. Like, so it's more about that, which is probably more accurate to day-to-day stuff, because and realistically, there's a lot of research that goes to show, like, if you put your hand on someone and try and feel a specific joint segment, how the hell do you know exactly what's going on? Like, you can't.
Exactly.
You know, you really can't.
You can't look inside the body.
No, and even if you could, even if you had x-ray vision, like you put your finger on here and you push, there is so much tissue between your thumb and the joint.
Bone or the joint.
Yeah, so it's like, how do you know? You know, you can't really.
You can't really
like,
tell.
you know, it's not like the hand where you could literally I can put my thumb on my knuckle and go, that's the joint.
Yeah.
You know, it's a bit different. But yeah, so that's probably what I say the difference there is. And then physios, I don't really know too much about their philosophy as such, but obviously a lot of their philosophy revolves around rehab and exercise, which is fair enough considering if you don't rehab and exercise, then you're not doing the gold standard in recovery. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got a bit of on a side tangent there. I was talking about my journey to chiro,
journey.
wasn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brendan asked the curveball question.
Yeah. threw us that way.
Yeah.
So where was that? Oh, the uni degree, right?
Yeah, so you were at osteo and then you were deciding what journey to take.
Yeah, so I didn't want to move. So then I basically went, chiro is basically the same thing from a hands-on perspective. And then when you leave, it's within your scope to go into the more rehab or, you know what I mean? It's within our scope. So I kind of went into that. And also at the time, I was playing for Stanmore Hawks in the NPL, and the two chiros that were the sort of like the medical team, one of them was the head tutor for the chiropractic degree, and then the other one, he'd been working under him for about 15 years. So they're both very, very experienced, and they both worked for like Sydney FC and Western Wanderers and stuff. Wow. And so I remember talking to them, and they're like, yeah, do it, like, you know, you'll be sweet. So, and then so went and signed up and did that. And
that was obviously more local, like home, close to home. You didn't have to go or move anywhere.
No, or just stay at home, right? So like you just got on the train and went up to Macquarie. So which was not too bad, but every time you drive to Macquarie, like from out here,
it's a trek.
In peak hour, it was like an hour and a half, and I would like get really twitchy in the car after like half an hour, and you get out and your back's aching. You're like, I hate this. So I would always catch train. I would prefer the train ride, even if I was packed like that. Like the train ride is just because at least I'm packed like this, but I can just chill and listen to something with my earphones and just not worry. In the car, it's like you're stressing out because everyone's bumper to bumper, so far out. But so that's probably that's how I pretty much got to it. And I mean, the injury side was like not as big of a factor as you'd probably think. Like most people get into this because of their injuries.
Yeah, I was going to say that, but it wasn't that.
It was, don't get me wrong, it was still a factor. But like the thing is I always had a interest in that sort of like manual therapy field. And
from a younger age because of your mum, right?
Yeah, and then it just basically evolved. And when mum suggested to go into it, I was like, that's actually a good idea. And considering I'd always be very interested in how I was getting fixed and sorted. And And then one thing I learned as I've got into the industry about rehab, for instance, is, you know, if I had rehabbed a lot more, I probably wouldn't have been injury prone, because I look back on like what I was doing, and it was if I, for instance, let's say when I was 21, I tore my hamstring. I think it was like a high grade 2, but so it was a big rehab process, and it was about
how long was that
process. I think it was 3 months from the date it happened to the date I was on the team sheet.
Yeah.
And it was probably about 8 weeks before I started running. And I look at it and I'm like, that was quite fast relative to what I understood at the time. And the average recovery rate being about 3 months. But then I look back on it and I'm like, I could have gotten back much sooner if I had have been in the gym, like without a doubt. And then that, not rehabbing an injury like that or any injuries, it cascades. It's a domino effect, right? Because then
it led to more injuries as well.
I mean, your nervous system wants to protect you from getting hurt more, right? So if you have an injury, the nervous system is going to go, let's not load that area as much as what it could do, because just in case we get hurt. And so then if you never change that adaptation strategy, then you're always going to offload that tissue, and then that's going to overload somewhere else, which will lead to a potential issue in that area or somewhere else, you know. So as basically, it's a very simple concept, but like it's a very difficult thing to nail down. And I probably, by the time I had enough knowledge to understand that, it was probably only a couple of years ago, you know, like when I graduated uni. So, which was about 3-4 years ago now. So by the time I realized that, I was like, okay, I got in the gym now. And to be honest, I'm nearly 29 now, and my body's felt the best it ever has across the course of my playing career, purely because I'm in the gym now and I'm strong, and then I'm doing the little accessory work as well, which helps, you know. And I think people
and that's
really
all come from knowledge as well, right?
Yeah, 100%. So and I just look back on it now and I'm like, if I had have just spent time rehabbing, then I guarantee I would not had nearly as many injuries, and I wouldn't have been injury prone. I was only injury prone because I wasn't doing the work. Like that was pretty much it. And obviously sometimes sport, you have some unlucky things, you know, like.
Of course, sometimes you can't prevent an injury.
No, exactly.
No matter how much rehab you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, I mean, I've been dealing with, I took 2 years off football, and then I've come back this year. I've been dealing with injuries nonstop since I've come back. And then I finally got to a good point, and then in the game a couple of weeks ago, I tore my groin, and it was just like an unlucky situation. I just got caught awkward in a tackle, and I was a bit fatigued at the end of the game, and it just went, you know, and you're just like, oh, crap, you know, but is what it is. So, but yeah, if I had have rehabbed more, had have gotten in the gym better, or done better things in the gym and been consistent with it, then I definitely think I wouldn't have had as many injuries. And that's where I've come to realize the hands-on stuff is a brilliant modality and way to calm pain down and get people into a nice window to start moving. Doesn't mean you have to use hands-on, but I just find it works very, very fast, right? If you understand how the body works, you can change pain very quickly, and then you can get people moving more. And most of the time, that's all people need to do is start moving more. And then from a sporting standpoint, you obviously need to do a bit more than just move. You got to prepare the body for the demands of the sport. You know, and get back to things where you can not just hold a lot of tension in the muscles, but then you can do that while changing directions, while the muscles having to hold a force isometrically, but then also lengthen because you're changing directions in a split second. And, you know, so, and it's under that like uncontrolled environment, which is you get these random things happening and the body's just got to deal with it. You know, if you don't prep yourself, then you're just asking for an injury.
100%. So basically people should just hit the gym. That's your message.
Yeah. Well, honestly,
go to the gym, people.
Yeah. Go to the gym. No, but in all honesty, so like I've been training with a trainer for 7 years now, and the pure reason is for consistency and accountability, because I get really lazy on my own. Like I can run for days, but in the gym I get so bored so fast. And for the first,
that's very common though.
And the first, I'd probably say 4 years of training with him. 4 years. I did once a week on my upper body, and that was it, right? And then I started leg work about 3 years ago, and the change I've had by just being consistent once a week, like people undervalue like one 45-minute session a week has done so much for me. And it's just 100%. Like, but the thing is what people miss out on that is if they're not able to get the volume in as much as what would be ideal, is they lack the intensity. Like big time. That's very true. Because like when I'm with my trainer, like I'm pushing to like if I was rated out of 10, like the RPE, I'd be pushing to an 8 or a 9 a lot of the times. And then you cycle out of that and do some deload types and stuff. But yeah, like if we're pushing for strength, like I'm like dripping in sweat by the end of it, especially on a leg day. Like I feel like I've run a marathon.
Whereas on your own, it's like a 5 to 6.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah. Well, like a big barrier I had in like my upper body, because I don't have great upper body strength naturally, was I'd get caught on like 5 reps at 60 kilos on a barbell bench, right? And I just could not break out of that no matter what I did. And also I didn't have the knowledge for training and how to improve it. But then you start training with him and or training with someone, anyone, and then you start breaking out of it.
Yeah.
And then you go, oh shit, I got the strength.
Yeah.
So
I'm actually stronger than I thought.
yeah, exactly. And it's just, and that barrier, it was honestly for me, it was so much psychological. Just like, what if I fail?
It is a big psychological barrier because a lot of people, like we were speaking to a bodybuilder, George, on the podcast the other day or the other week, and he was talking about the intensity of your training. Like if you know that you've done 6 reps and you know that that's your last rep, you've always got 5 more in you.
Yeah, 100%.
And then it's literally all about what's up in your head.
Yeah. Well, and that's where sometimes just having a training partner helps so much because like the thing that probably the big difference other than intensity that I had when I started training with my PT was when I start struggling and you start sticking and stuff, it's just burning out those extra few reps. And then you're actually finishing that set with maybe only two reps in reserve or something like that.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, I'm knackered. Like, and it's funny because when
you're making the biggest results as well.
Yeah, 100%. And when you bail out, you then start kind of not seeing that's when you plateau and you're like, oh, I just can't do it. I'm just not strong enough. It's like, no, you're just not training hard enough. Like you're just not doing it properly. Like that at the end of the day, that's it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's interesting.
It's a good message to push because like we encounter a lot of people like that, especially in our field of work as being personal trainers.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't really know how to push themselves. So that accountability that you get from your coach was exactly what you needed. Just that accountability. Hey, push yourself that extra 3 reps and here you are now.
Exactly.
I think as well a big thing that's missed in training and rehab too, but more training just because of the knowledge gap is just the knowledge of the body too. Like you see it a lot on social media and stuff when you see trainers like describing things online or you just see it in like coaching moments and stuff. And like honestly, I reckon PT should learn a lot more about the anatomy and the body because like when you understand the anatomy and you understand how a system is supposed to move and then technique training or correcting technique becomes so much better. And then it comes down to like, for instance, like people get scared of a deadlift because it's like, oh, what if I hurt my back? And it's like, well, if you do it properly and you progressively overload you're
going to be fine.
You're going to be all right, But the thing is there was one, I think Liv had a patient not long ago, I think within the last week, she hurt her back doing a deadlift. And in the class, they're like, yeah, your form's good. Like, keep going and push heavier, push heavier. Yeah. Yeah, and push heavier. And then, anyways, and she stuffed her back up. And then, Liv checked the form and just basically it was like a waiter's bow. Like just, there wasn't much. You were barely getting any hip hinging and it was just pure waiter's bow. And you're going, well, you're just going to, no wonder you hurt your back. You go, you ramp up your load higher than what you've done previously. And then you're going to go load the smallest muscle in your lower limb posterior chain. It's like, you're just asking for trouble.
Yeah.
And that's where people get scared of it. And it's usually, it's got nothing to do with exercise. It's the form.
It's got to do with group training.
The form and loading and group training.
Group training.
I found that because I used to work at F45 at San Susie.
Yeah, he was a shitty group trainer.
Yeah. Huh?
I said you were a shitty group trainer.
Yeah. Yeah. I was a shitty group trainer. Thanks, Brendan.
Still is.
Still is. But I was at F45 and the one thing that I tried to harp on the most was form. Yeah. Even if I had 30 people in front of me, the form is so important. And I had, you get people come to you with back injuries. Yeah. I had that happening every 2-3 weeks.
Yeah, and especially the programming in F45. I hate it personally. I hate it. Because I was training at BFT for a little while, or like a trainer at BFT for a little while. And then I went to F45 after it, not necessarily as a full time
as a collaboration.
It was I was down the road from the San Susie one with the clinic, and I knew the manager, and she basically just asked if I could come on as like a cover, on a cover basis. When I did the covers, it was like half of the lower limb session was like, let's do a reverse lunge into an overhead dumbbell snatch. And then you're getting people and they're just flailing around and they're like not even concentrating on the lunge. The dumbbells are going over here and over there, and you're just going. And then half of the class was doing their own thing anyway. Like I remember there was a couple of girls that would turn up and they would like turn up 10 minutes late. They missed all the warm up, everything. They'd grab a booty band, put it around their knees and like just do some monster walks. And I'm like, that's not even programmed. Like what's going on?
Yeah, so I used to completely skip the warm up.
Oh, really?
And I just did my own warm up, literally. Hamstrings, calves, back, everything like apart from, some
warm up.
Their warm ups are like jumping jacks.
Yeah. Let's
push-ups.
Let's do this one.
Yeah. As many push-ups as you can do in 30 seconds. It took people 30 seconds. It took people 30 seconds to get on the floor sometimes.
Well, what was even worse was sometimes you missed half the warm up because you're still explaining all the exercises because you got like 24 exercises in a class, some of these, and then they give you like 2 seconds to just to demo and cue the exercise and start a class. It was like an Olympic sport trying to get around to all of the exercises. I was dead after. You're just like,
it's the word.
Yeah.
And so at BFT, you were there for a couple of months.
Yeah, that was 6-ish months, I think, and then. Yeah, so when I started I was at the Ramsgate one when they opened, because at the time I think I was about a year into having my own business, and I realized like,
oh, so you had the business prior to being a BFT.
So basically the way my sort of career has gone in the chiro industry is I left uni, had 2 different jobs.
Yeah, I was just about to ask, like, what did the journey look like?
Yeah, so I was in Petersham and then Double Bay.
Yep.
In Double Bay, I left after 3 months. It was the guy that owned it was an NATE practitioner. Basically stands for neuro emotional technique. Like, I don't understand it at all. I don't agree with the methodology, but to put it simply, it was like.
Hence why you left, right?
Well, no, that's not actually the reason why I left. I don't care what he did. Like, it worked for him and his patients got value out of it.
So you came on as your own, like your own separate
I was
practitioner.
contracted. So I was contracted. Yeah. So I wasn't doing his philosophy.
So you had your own clients that came to you for your own specific.
Well, that was the problem. I had no clients, right? So I'm in Double Bay. I don't know anyone, know nothing. And
You would have felt cool going to Double Bay, but.
No, because I lost money going. That was the problem. Because one month I had one patient the entire month, right?
Oh, lovely.
And like I'm not like a salesman at all. So it's like I didn't understand how to like connect with other businesses, other practitioners, or other, and actually like start up a network. I just didn't know how to do that. Or didn't get it.
Conversate with people.
Yeah, so I was relying on that clinic owner to then feed me people or have initials coming in, promote me, do the marketing, and that just wasn't happening. And after I had one patient in 1 month and that was it, I just went, stuff this, I'm out of here. If I'm only going to have that many people and nobody's going to do the marketing for me, may as well just do it myself,
Yeah.
And so then I had my thing, I started up in Hurstville and I was working at Petersham at the time. The place I was working at, Petersham, didn't really work out, mainly because it was a Brazilian niche clinic and a lot of the people that were coming were obviously like Brazilian or Portuguese, and they'd then see me for a couple of sessions. Yeah, and then we'll see me for a couple of sessions, but then they'd go to him because they wanted to talk their native language, which is fair enough, right? But then I was just like, how am I going to build up? And you're seeing enough clients to survive and whatnot, but it wasn't like, you're making much money. So I just went, this probably isn't going to work long term, so I may as well just bail out now and go fully into my thing. So yeah, that's when I went fully into my thing, and then it smacked me pretty hard in the face about the business side. Like, you don't realize it's like you start up your own business. I think this is where a lot of I think not just practitioners in the allied health field, I think just people in general, they start up their own business thinking, oh, I'll make all the money myself. But it's like, okay, great, but you just need people buying your product. Like, you need people wanting to buy off of you.
Need a brand.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot to it, and it kind of smacked me in the face. And so early on I went, right, I just need to build up my client base, but then I also just need a little bit of a semi-side hustle income just to deal with my day-to-day stuff, so then I can actually spend the time learning this and not really worry too much if I have a crap week or if things drop for a little while or whatever.
So you still had that supplementary income.
Yeah, anyway. So I actually ended up at the time I started BFT, so I was doing my thing at Hurstville with chiro, but then I was opened up within a over 50s gym. Before I started BFT, I went on to be a trainer at that gym, which was a bit of a tactic.
Over 50s one?
Yeah, which was a bit of a tactic to also, one, get a little bit of side money, but then also mainly to then get to know the clients easier and try and get them.
Oh, because it was in the same area.
I was inside the gym.
Okay.
So it was just like, oh, you're a chiro. Where do you operate? Oh, I'm over there. Just literally in that room, 2 meters away. So and that worked really well.
So they could easily see you straight after a session.
Yeah.
They built rapport with you. They already like you. And they're over 50s, so there's a high chance they're going to be injured as well.
Is that the one in Canterbury? On the corner?
No. So that's his second one. So Hurstville was his first one. It's the same guy that did that. Yeah. He's got the Canterbury one now. Okay. So which was pretty cool. Yep. He's opened the second one, and that's gone pretty well from what I saw. So it's a good setup. Like, it's a big.
Yeah, I've got a client that goes there.
Oh yeah. It's good. I find it's. What's good is it allows the people that have never exercised before to feel safe to exercise.
100%.
And the probably
like a safe haven for
them. Probably the gap for that population in that area is more so that a lot of them come and they focus too much on talking and they just like socializing, right? But at the end of the day, in these people in these populations, like, they can improve drastically, but for a lot of them, they don't want to. They just want to generally move. You know, the social aspect is just as important as exercise as well, like for
100%.
the mental side of things and whatnot. So, yeah, it's definitely a big niche that like, or a big gap in the market that they've nailed in there, and they're doing it pretty well. So like it was a good. Everyone enjoyed it. Like it was a good gym. But yeah, so I had chiro, the over 50s trainer, and then I went and did BFT as well. And that was when I was doing about 65 hour weeks and between all three of them. And then I did that for 3 months, and then I basically pulled back on all of the gym work because I was like, this is crazy. Like,
Did you burn out?
Oh, big time. So yeah, it
So
was.
do you believe in burnout?
Yeah, after going through that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, gotcha.
We had this great debate the other day on whether you believe in burnout or don't.
Yeah.
And we made content about it, and there was a video that went a bit viral about it, and that's why Brendan likes asking the question, do you believe in burnout?
Yeah. Well, I think if you don't believe in burnout, it's because you haven't burnt yourself out yet, right? You haven't worked hard enough to feel
But
burnt out.
how would you define it though? Because I just feel like when I'm working a big week or I've got a lot of things that I'm doing at the same time, that towards the end of the week I'm just extra tired.
Yes.
Or I'm sick.
I don't
know what I
find
mean?
that. I suppose you could technically class that as burnout, right? I personally would find, for me personally, I find that is more just like general fatigue, right? I've just pushed too hard in that week.
Yeah.
For me, burnout was more of a chronic thing. Like it's over consistently week after week. Like in this situation, it was 3 months straight of 65 hours, which I think
And you're doing three different things at once, being a trainer, running a business,
switching the
and being
hats is
another
hard.
trainer as well.
That drains you more than anything. Is just switching your hat from trainer to chiro. You know, and then within chiro, it was like I'm learning business, I'm learning to be a chiro, then I'm learning rehab, and you just like your brain just fatigues.
And you're marketing as a trainer as well to bring people into the chiro.
Yeah, exactly. So like I think it's just the chronic side of things. Like it's just that consistency, and then over time you just get into this chronic state of just fatigue, irritability. Like I was just getting snappy and angry all the time. Like, and I'm not an angry person. It was just things that irritate me so easily, you know, and it's just because I was tired. You know,
like putting an extra brick in your backpack every time.
Yeah,
every day.
literally. Pretty much. So you just fill up the cup too much, and then the cup's just like freaking going crazy. Like, you know, the cup's got holes in it, and
everything's falling apart.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, I definitely believe in burnout, 100%.
Yeah.
So,
good.
So do you feel like you need to experience that at least once or twice in your life so then you know what your limits are as well?
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I'm very much into my motorsport, especially the F1.
Yep.
And there's a saying with race car drivers. It's like, how do you know where the limit is if you've never
hit the limit,
gotten close
to it or over it? I can't remember the exact saying, but basically it's like, yeah, you got to have some idea of where the limit is to understand what the limit is, you know? So it's the same sort of thing with everything. Like if you don't know if you've never hit your limit, never experienced burnout, it's like, okay, you don't know how far you can actually push yourself. I mean, it's the same with gym, right? It's like the same thing, reps in reserve. Like if you bow it out always, you don't actually know what your true limit is, you know? So,
sort of what you said about the 60 kilos. Like if you didn't push yourself to 70 or 80, whatever it is, you never would have known.
Yeah, exactly.
Or you've been comfortable staying at that 60.
Yeah, exactly. And you just sit there. And then the thing is you're sitting at 60, and it doesn't mean that you're not getting tired from it. Like I was still working out and feeling tired, like don't get me wrong, but it's just like there's that extra like 20-30% that you can still push, and you go, oh, okay, this is really what it's like to be tired, you know?
Yeah.
So that period of 3 months, probably the only time I've experienced proper burnout, because I've never really been a stressful, tired person or anything. It's just
overworked or anything like that.
Yeah. But and after that 3 months, like it got to the point where it was just like, okay, I'm doing all this work, but then what's my target? Is to be a chiro. Why am I doing like 30 hours a week of PT and then doing 30-35 hours a week of chiro? It just makes no sense.
You just did a 4-year course, like what?
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, you make like no problem doing that if then you can still have chiro as the main focus. But I was like, it just wasn't happening for me. So I was like, pull it back and just focus on chiro, because at the end of the day, the whole point of the training side of things was just a bit of an extra income to sustain me while I learned.
But then at that point, you already built up the chiro enough as well.
Yeah, so it definitely got to the point where I didn't need any of the other training. But the hard part, which you guys would have experienced as well 100%, is when you're in a profession like a service-based profession, sometimes your weeks are completely polar opposite. And so your week to week is not guaranteed.
Yep.
And I think people that have only been in a salary paying job don't understand that. The security of money coming in or income, it's just like you don't have it.
Yeah.
And even now, like we're doing fine, but it's just like
The volatility is just something that you can't anticipate.
You're
It's always very up and down.
exactly, and you're always scared that the down weeks are going to be so badly down, and you're like, oh god, and you kind of like pre-stress and for no, like really, it's like
PTSD just talking about it.
well, it's like you haven't even. Nothing's even happened, and you're like, "Oh shit, is this going to be a bad week coming up?" Hasn't even happened yet, but you're worried about it, And then so
who's going to cancel?
yeah,
Who's not gonna
exactly.
show up?
And you know what's funny? It's like when one person can't, like, sometimes I get a call at like 8 a.m. on a Monday or like 7 a.m. on a Monday, like, "Hey, I need to cancel this session this week."
Yeah.
And that's it. And you're like, okay, cool. And then you're trying to contact them for rescheduling and whatnot. But when that happens, sometimes you just get this gut feeling, you're like, it's going to be one of these weeks.
Yeah, the snowball effect happens.
Yeah, and it's like when it rains, it pours, and like 50% of your clientele just go, "Can I reschedule the next week?" You're like, "Oh, okay." Like,
Slow week it is.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, frees you up time for other stuff. But
Yeah,
then you
marketing week.
yeah, exactly. You get so demotivated to do your marketing sometimes because you're expecting to earn that income, and then you're like, and treat because that's what you want to do.
That's what you do.
And then it's like, oh, I now got to do the marketing, the thing I hate.
Yeah, you can't let your emotions be shown through your marketing because it represents what that week will end up turning out to be.
Mm-hmm.
If it's your, hey guys, how's it going? This is
Yeah.
Ree. No one's gonna watch it. But
Well-
hey, it's Ree. Like,
Yeah.
come on in, come and do a session.
You got to put the character on, right? It was like last Friday I posted a video which has gone kind of semi-viral on TikTok. And
we spoke about this on Sunday.
Yeah, we spoke about it on Sunday. But that day I did not want to film anything. Like I was just feeling crap and I just couldn't be bothered. But I didn't have anything filmed previously to actually edit something and film.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, let me just film this taping technique because then I can film in 10 minutes, get it out there, and then it'll be done. Take me 15 minutes overall, no problem. And then it's just gone viral. But like the thing is just for that 10 minutes or 5 minutes of filming, you just get the energy up, just do it, and then it's like, okay, cool.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, nobody else gives a crap about your personal feelings. Like
No.
It's crazy.
Especially on socials as well.
socials.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
whatever they see is what is entertainment at the end of the day.
yeah, exactly. So
They don't really
nobody
like,
cares.
oh, hey, how you going, Jordan? You feeling all right?
Yeah, the comment section's always funny too because it's so easy behind the keyboard.
Yeah, that's
And
Keyboard
one guy-
warriors,
On,
yeah.
on that video, I had one guy tell me to relax about it, and like he goes, just tell people to harden up. Like, and he goes, Wayne Rooney never had to strap himself up. And I felt
What?
I felt like googling Wayne Rooney with strapping tape and sending it to him, but I was like, let it go.
Let it go.
He was,
Yeah, because he's definitely been strapped before. Did you look it
yeah,
up?
100%. Everyone's been strapped before. Like, there's,
Did you look it up though?
oh yeah, I did out of curiosity because I was like, just to check for my own, like, just my own
For your own
reassurance,
knowledge,
yeah. And
Yeah,
there's
I'm
pictures of him
interested.
walking around with
Is he
taped
actually?
ankles. Hey.
Is he actually?
Yeah, he's been. There was photos of him with taped up ankles and stuff. Like, yeah,
He's a footballer. Look, it's bound
well,
to happen.
exactly.
You
It's
have
part
to,
of it. He would. I suppose what that guy was referring to is just that at that level, and especially with Wayne Rooney, it was like, oh, I've got a bit of pain. I'm playing through it. I don't
Yeah.
care. That was what he was
Yes.
basically trying to say. Which he does have a point to it, but also like most of the people are not getting paid £200,000 a week to play. So, like
And have a whole physio and chiro team
yeah,
behind.
exactly. Like you're in rehab every day doing stuff. Like I pulled my groin. I'm like, I'm not playing through that,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, if I play through that, I'm not doing enough to then keep improving.
Yeah, you're not getting paid from your sport, so it's like
I'm paying to play. Like, I'm in negative, man. Plus all the boots and, well, not all the boots, but you pay for your boots and stuff. But to be fair, like football in Australia is not too expensive relative to other sports, especially at the local league level.
Yes.
You get to MPL and stuff, it gets pretty crazy. It's like, I mean, with your brother, like especially in youth, I think like some of the MPL one club charge like $4,000 to play for the year, which is crazy. But you compare it, like my sister played tennis. You compare it to tennis, and every week you're paying for one-on-one coaching, rackets, shoes, springs, tournaments.
Really?
Oh man, it's crazy. Like,
oh yeah,
The money invested into tennis is crazy.
oh, it's huge.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. And so the thing
because
is,
they go through rackets as well, right?
yeah, that's what I was about to say. They
And
go
the
through
balls
so
and-
many rackets.
yeah.
It depends
Because
on.
I've stolen a few tennis balls.
Well, you know what? Even the balls, they go dead really fast, right? You flattened him.
What? I've stolen a few balls in my life.
Have you?
Yes.
But yeah, like even my sister, she was playing like decently, consistently, and at a good level. But it was the strings, right? The rackets would go through quickly, but the strings would snap every week to second week. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, wow.
And so then you got to pay.
Especially if you're playing often as well, right?
Exactly. Then you got to pay for the strings, pay for restringing, and then the worst ones, which you wouldn't even expect, but it makes sense when you hear about it, is shoes. Like you tear through shoes every 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
Oh, what?
Yeah, well, I mean, you think about how much change of direction
'cause
work. You're on
yes,
here. You're on
makes sense.
You're either on synthetic or hard court, so you're basically playing on concrete non-stop.
Yeah.
Like it rips through you.
And
you
they're
know?
doing that side to side movement.
Yeah, it's the lateral movement. So, you know,
My foot would slip out like every session, I reckon.
yeah. Well, that's why they got grip socks for football now. They're the best inventions ever. I what was it, about like 5 years ago? I bought my first one and I wore it and I went, I'm never going back to normal socks. Cut my socks in half and put this grip socks on. They're
Wait a
so
second,
good.
what is this?
Grip socks, like they got little like.
Is that
rubber
like the
bits
ones
on
that you take to Sky Zone?
Yeah,
kind of, but they're a lot better than that. Yeah.
What's it take the Sky Zone? Yeah. You get them for free when you pay for the
The
day.
you pay for the class or whatever.
That's
it
just
is.
more hygienic. Imagine some people's feet bounce around on the trampoline,
no,
and you got people's face hitting it as well. Oh, gross.
Then you rode to a soccer game? Nah.
Yeah, exactly.
they're too
Football players'
short.
feet are not fun.
But now they actually make grip socks to the point where, my brother does it too. You cut the bottom of your socks off, you put your grip socks on, and then you put the cut off socks over the top.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. It's so much more comfortable. But the problem is then you got grip socks, so your change of direction forces go through, obviously your limit higher up, but then and your joints, but then also through the boot itself. And these boots on synthetic here, plus the harsher turning angles and
They
forces,
disappear.
man, you just rip through them so fast because
disappear.
the glue can't handle
Yeah.
that. Like, I mean, I remember people used to like rip their boots up within a month, go back to Rebel and say, hey, the boots are falling apart, exchange it.
That's what my brother does.
Does he still do it?
Yeah.
Man, I'm surprised Rebel still
shoes
allow
every month.
that.
He gets 2 boots a year.
Yeah, I do 2 boots
Yeah.
a year as well. I buy, now I basically just use last year's pair as my training and backup pair, and then I'll buy a new pair for matches.
pair,
Because otherwise, if you
I
train,
think they're expensive enough for them to forego that cost. It's not that bad.
yeah, it depends
Worth the
on how crazy
investment.
you want to go. Like, I mean, they got boots that are $500 now. It's so useless. Like, why are you paying
Fly
$500?
knit, new material, new technology,
Lace free.
lace free.
Bro, I can't get my foot into
You
the
will
lace
make
free
the A-League if you wear those boots.
Be Lionel Messi.
Want to play in the MLS? Buy these Adidas Predators.
yeah, exactly.
Go all the way.
Be like Paul Pogba, Nike Tiempos. Yeah, that's what they do on the walls, right? They got all the players up there and stuff. So, but yeah.
We took a bit of a sidetrack. We were talking about...
Yeah, we took a massive sidetrack. It's about nothing to do with anything.
That's all right. I wanted to go back to Seib Chiropractic. So you opened up you were doing it in Hurstville. You were in that little space.
Yeah.
And then how did San Susie come about?
That came about actually because of BFT.
Okay.
So they had a space at the front of their gym and they asked if I wanted to rent it out.
Yep.
And at the time I was considering what am I going to do long term? And I just didn't really want to stay in Hurstville because the general population in Hurstville, there was a lot of people renting and a lot of internationals and things like that. So the sustainability was not really there. It was very volatile because you have a lot of fresh faces coming in, very high density. But then a lot of people, as soon as they were paying free, they were out of there. And they didn't see our treatment plans and stuff like that. So it made it really hard. And so I was like, I don't think this is... And also I wanted to see sports clientele. There's not really many sports clientele in Hurstville. So I was like,
Hurstville,
so I was like, I would prefer to move out somewhere. And then when they gave me that chance, I was like, at the time, Liv was working somewhere else where she wasn't really too happy with. And I said, well, how about you come work with me? You can operate out of San Susie. I'll operate out of Hurstville. I go, we can test the waters in San Susie, or at the Ramsgate was where BFT was, and test the waters there, see what's going on, and then maybe we just start building things up, and then I'll slowly move across.
It's like an A/B split test.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's exactly what it was, right? And then the long story short there was it didn't really work out at BFT. There was a lot of differences. I won't go into it, but it just wasn't really working out with what they were after and the
what they were looking for. And
just the stuff that they wanted me to sign on the lease agreement. It was a bit ridiculous
Not
from
worth
my
it.
perspective. Yeah, and maybe it wasn't ridiculous, but I wasn't willing to put my name to that and be stuck in with some of those things. But so because of that, me and my dad were searching for another space and found a space in San Susie, went there and
it's a good space too.
Yeah. So it's about 90 square meters, so nothing crazy, but we've got 2 treatment rooms, got a little gym space. I can do rehab. Liv can do she does one-on-one reformer Pilates and stuff like that. And,
That's what you need for what you have.
Yeah, exactly. You need the rehab space. And like, to be fair, 20 square meters is not massive, but it's for what we need at the moment, it's perfect. And then as you build up and bring other people in and expand the business, that's when you'll need a bigger space because you need multiple people working at once.
And just to clarify for people watching, Liv is your partner.
My partner,
and
yeah. So
And she does chiropractic too.
She's a chiro too, and a Pilates instructor. So she was on the pod not long ago, right? It was a couple months now, I think. So
a couple months ago.
Yeah. So,
But do you guys have an in-house trainer as well?
no, it's just us. So we don't have anyone. Like basically, what I'll do is if people need training, they usually have their own trainer or they have their own space. I've started offering like online programming for clients, which I don't do much of at all, but it's more so just like a little side thing to bridge
More
the
like
gap.
rehab programs, right?
Yeah, and even just ongoing gym training stuff, because some people, they like, I made it relatively cheap, and it's just more so to bridge that gap so people can then have a guided session, but they can still just train on their own. So it's just because a lot of people, they go, I don't want to, I just want to be able to turn up, know what I'm doing, and then leave.
Yeah.
So
do and not think.
Yeah, exactly. And that's fair enough. I mean, that's one reason I got a trainer was I turn up and you're like, you're running classes and writing rehab plans and doing all that. And then I got to think of it for myself, man. Stuff that. I'm not getting paid for myself, doing it myself. Like, I'll pay someone else to do it. It makes more sense to me.
Yeah.
But it's just about streamlining, right? I mean, it's like anything. You find a way to streamline things and make it more efficient.
Yeah.
And if I don't have to think about my own training, then it just makes it easier for me. And
Because then you can focus on the things that you actually want to spend your time on.
Yeah,
like growing
exactly.
your business.
Yeah, exactly. So you can just go straight to the gym, train in and out in 30, 45 minutes, and you could then back into work, and away you go. So
have you found since having a personal trainer, it's assisted you in being more consistent with Seib Chiropractic and like growing your brand? In a sense of mental headspace.
I'd probably say no, because I mean the trainer started 7 years ago. Like I was just starting my sports science degree. I was midway through or end of my sports science degree when I started that. But
yeah, you had no chiro in your mind at that point.
and I wasn't really, had nothing to do with like the business side of things or anything. It was just doing a uni degree, figuring out what I want to do in my life. I think with the consistency with that, I think it just came with more knowledge of business, of understanding what it takes and what is actually involved. And then the big thing is streamlining, like efficiency. So like one of the biggest things, I hate social media with a passion. Like I do not like doing it at all.
Now you're on it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I post like 5-6 times a week now, right? So, but the thing is my personal profiles, I'm like a social media hermit. I'm on there scrolling, following people, watching what they're doing, but I don't post nothing. Like
That's like us as well.
I just don't bother. But then you start out in business, and then they're like, oh, social media is important in this day and age. You're like, yeah, okay. And you don't really get it at first. And then you start posting because nobody follows you. You get like maybe 20 views here, 100 views there, 200 views there. And
a couple likes here and there.
Yeah, you don't really understand it. And you start learning the and it's not really about necessarily getting anything out of it. It's the exposure and the consistency behind that you need to put in to then build the brand and the personal side of things. Because at the end of the day, people nowadays, they want to know who you are, what you're about. Like they just want to follow the story and behind you.
Sometimes they care more about that than the actual business itself.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I think it was just as I realized that and then started to streamline things, like paying for like editing softwares and stuff like that. It's an expense that you don't want to pay for, but at the end of the day, it saves me. Like when I first started editing videos, it took me like 2-3 hours to edit a 1 minute, film and edit a 1 minute video. Yeah. Because I didn't really understand like the editing.
How to cut it, how to match the audio, all that kind of stuff.
And you're using free apps that basically limit you massively. So you're trying to find workarounds for
only
stuff.
Only 1 gigabyte of storage.
Yeah, exactly. Or, export with the
with the watermark.
With the watermark, yeah. And then you're also uploading, downloading, re-uploading.
CapCut in the corner.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So and then you got the outro of CapCut on there. So just stuff like that. But as you get it more efficient and streamlined, it became easier. And probably the last 3 months has become a lot easier. And it's just turned into like, this is work.
Did you set a bit of a structure behind it?
A little bit. I think it was just figuring out, like, we haven't really got too much of a process. It's still semi-winged it. There's a little, like, we have a little bit of like a plan, but it's still very vague and broad, and we're kind of in the process of figuring out or working out a system behind it. I think it's just hard when it doesn't come easy to you. I mean, like anything, it's hard to put social media is a very grey thing. It's so fluid. So how do you put a structured framework around that? It is difficult.
You can't really.
And you can, but it's got to be relative to
an
you.
extent.
Yeah, it's got to be relative to you. But yeah, you can't like go, because once I tried to do 3 month planning, and like you get to that 3rd month and you're like, oh, I want to talk about this now, but 3 months ago I said I'd talk about that. And so there's no,
it's always going to change, and then social media is going to change as well.
Yeah, you need the flexibility in it, right? So, but now it's like, I think you just got to treat it as, this is a part of my job. It's
part of your business and career and everything.
Yeah, it's like you just got to do it, and if I don't do it, then I'm not doing my work.
You're going to become less relevant, and then
And I think it's just, when you start out, you're obviously wanting to bring in the income, because social media is not an income producer when you have 100 followers, so you're not earning money from it. So you're like, I don't want to dedicate my time to this, but it's about the bigger picture and where it can lead you to, right?
Yeah, down the track sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. But even just other things like your general day-to-day business operations and stuff like that, like just streamlining that
like
stuff.
Admin.
Yeah, just streamlining it and then going, this is what I have to do, and
Yeah.
just making sure you carve out time for it. And I'm still not great at it, but like I'm a lot better at
100%.
it. Yeah, it's just for figuring out how you like to do things and then pushing through it.
So where was your inflection point? Because I feel like the way you've described yourself is someone that really focuses in on being a practitioner and a really
Yeah.
good practitioner at that. You know, you were a trainer, you were focusing on your training journey, then you became a chiro, and then you were really focusing on more becoming a really good chiro. And then you had this point where you decided to start your own business. How did you have that switch where you're like, okay, I have to be less of a chiro sometimes so I can start growing the business? You know what I mean?
Oh, the short answer is there was no switch. It was everything was merged into one, and it was trying to learn everything at once. And that's when it was like, yeah, you just kind of go, you got to focus in on one thing, right? And especially the hard part is you start out in the profession, you're trying to learn business and the profession. It's like
At the same time.
you can't do both. Juggling both is impossible. And so it ended up turning into, I learned enough within the profession to sort of get by and be able to give people results and know how to treat them well and do well. But like you treat them well, but for what I want to be able to give people value wise and where I want to be able to push them is to like here, where then potentially they're never needing me again. You know,
Yes.
that's unrealistic because life happens, but like that's sort of like the goal. My personal goal for patients is I'm pushing you to the point where you understand things, you have the knowledge, you have the tools, you know what you have to do.
And
to
that's
keep
a
yourself out of
level
trouble.
that you want to get to as a practitioner.
Yeah. So I basically got myself to a level where you would get results, people were really happy, you know, you get them pain free, sort out issues, stuff like
You
that.
get repeat clients.
Yeah, and you get repeat client stuff. But then it got to the point where I was like, okay, I need to work on the business because I need to understand how do I bring new clients in, how do I promote, how do I do that stuff. And that's an learning evolution. But yeah, I worked on that for a little while, and it's just now it's a part of the day-to-day process.
Yeah.
So now it's like, even at the moment now I'm doing some heavy CPD stuff to really evolve my sort of like product, like my trading services, to go to the next level and go into high detail and understand things in a lot more depth.
Oh, there we go. That's
So
you
for-
becoming a better practitioner there.
Yeah, exactly. Because I've hit a point where with the business where I'm like, okay, it's not nothing crazy and I'm never going to scale it well at the level I'm at with the business right now and what we're implementing.
Let me just
But
improve the product a little bit more.
yeah, it's like how, like you can, if you sell well, you could have a really bad product and you sell it really, really well if you're a good salesman. But like, I'm not a salesman. So like, and for me, when I sell something to somebody, I have to understand every possible variable about that, which makes it hard to sell my services with 100% complete confidence internally. And sometimes that then comes out and you don't mean
And it
to.
shows.
Because and it's not that, and here's the thing, right? It's not that you're not confident in your ability to help this person. You definitely are. But sometimes it's like because of the mechanisms involved or what's happened. And even if, like, it's hard to know exactly what's going on. And even if you think, oh, I know exactly what I think this is, you really don't. Like, you
can't be 100% in your advice.
you
You
never
can't be
can.
like, doing 10 pistol squats is going to fix this injury.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Here's the kicker. You kind of need to be. So you have to be confident when you're telling people what they need to do, because if you're
Because you need to
half-assing
ease
it-
their mind, because some people come to you, they come to you for advice because they're like, I'm injured. I
Yeah.
need to go to a professional that will help me not be injured anymore.
Yeah.
Right?
But yeah, exactly. And imagine if
I don't want to deal with this lower back pain anymore.
Yeah, imagine if you've been in back pain for like a year, right? And then you go to someone and they go, "Oh, I think this would help." And you kind of go, "Oh, so will it or won't it?" You know what I mean?
Straight away, I'll be like, you don't know anything.
Yeah, exactly.
And
And
walk
it's-
out the door.
But here's the thing, right? The people that probably say, "I think it will help," most of those will probably have more of an idea than
the
most
people like, I know exactly
this
what
will
that is."
Yeah, exactly. Because the smarter people understand that there is a lot more going on, and you can be certain about anything. Even when somebody says,
But it's really hard to articulate that.
yeah, exactly. And
So you have to find a little middle point between the two.
that's where exactly you have to understand how to communicate well, but you have to be confident. And sometimes it's okay to say, I don't know, like it is, because if you don't know, you don't know. But you can't turn around and be like, oh, I think this will work. It might not work. Oh, but maybe this, maybe that. Like you got to be a lot more like, okay, this is what I need you to do. And this is what needs to happen from your end. And then let's go from there. Right. And
And we're
that's
going to go
basically
through
what
this
it is.
phase for 4 weeks. If it's not working, then we'll switch things up.
Yeah, exactly. So usually as well, you're not really, you frame sort of the plan and potential issues and stuff, obviously, because that's what you have to do. But it's like, okay, this is the path we're going to take. If things aren't working, then we switch it up. you know, and we look at, okay, maybe this direction isn't working. Maybe let's go more down this direction, or, you know, because sometimes too, I've had it multiple times where I had it relatively recently, actually. I had a lady come in, she had hip pain, was it? Yeah, she had hip pain, and everything was just really tight, a bit spasmy, a bit crampy. And on the assessment, it seemed like, okay, cool. If we can get your hip open and loading, you're going to be a lot better, right? But because everything was so tight, I actually missed sort of like what I think now is the underlying cause. We're still in the middle of treatment, so I don't actually know where it's going to end up yet. But you kind of miss the underlying cause a little bit, or a big contributing potential factor. And so then what happened was, after that first session, she flared up massively. And I went, oh shit, what's going on here? And she comes back and you look at it and you go, okay, cool. I know why you flared up. And in her situation, it was more so the glutes and the TFL and all that were spasming to protect the knee. And they were just, And so you open up.
And that's what you mentioned before.
Yeah.
The protective mechanism in the nervous system.
Yeah, exactly. So if the nervous system's going, I'm spasming this area here to protect that area or another area, if it's just in a protection mode and you open that up, you risk people of flaring up, because then the underlying issue is still there, and you've not changed.
Then the glutes are going to be inflamed, and the TFL
not necessarily inflamed, but it's just like, so think of it this way, as you. So we'll use this case as an example. If her previous surgery and injuries to the knee, her hamstrings were really underloading, in the sense they just weren't really
firing properly.
Not that they weren't firing, but the movement strategies, the way the bones were dropping in and things like that, it just, the load was coming away from the hamstrings and up the chain. If you can't handle load down the chain, up the chain will tolerate it, and vice versa, right? Essentially, like, if something doesn't work, something else will pick up the slack, right? Because the body goes, I don't care if that's not working. We need to get upstairs. We need to walk. I need you to be able to drive or run, or it just gets the job done, and it figures a way out about it. And the nervous system is brilliant at doing that. And that's why a lot of the times,
all right, glutes, you're doing more work today.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so then you've got the nervous system firing that area up a lot more because of the strategies involved, and naturally it's just more stress and load coming through there. You then go, hey, that's really tight. I know how to open that up. We'll fix that. You open it up really fast. It's too much. The nervous system goes, whoa, man, we're squeezing that for a reason, because that's not doing well, and it will just spasm that area up. Because at the end of the day, if the system perceives a threat, it's going to let you know about it. And that's what pain is. It's a threat detection system. And so if you pass that threshold of a threat, the nervous system will go boom, and you'll know about it, you know?
Yeah.
The human body, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. That's also why they say, like, pain does not mean damage. Because the thing is, pain is just a threat detection. It doesn't necessarily mean you've ripped something in half. That's where a lot of people can't understand. Like, they bend over in the garden, back goes out, and then it's like almost shooting nerve pain, but it's not nerve pain, it's something else, or it is nerve pain, doesn't really matter. But basically the point is that if they have that small thing that affected them and they can't comprehend, okay, but it hurts to bend forward. It's like, yeah, because that hurt you before, and that could be a reason why then it hurts now, because it's got nothing to do with there's an injury there, but everything to do with the brain goes, bending hurt us before. I don't want you to bend because it might happen again, you know? And so
that's what her mindset would be doing. Yeah.
100%. The mindset's massive as well. Like, people that come in with a very positive mindset about, I'm going to get this sorted. What do I need to know? How do I need to fix it? What do I need to do? You tend to find, like, if somebody, let's say you have a condition that might take you 6 weeks to get on top of, somebody with a really solid mindset and is doing what you say to the T, stuff like that, moving well, all good factors, they might be able to get sorted in about 4 weeks, right? Yeah. Like, give or take, obviously it's very generalized. And then somebody with a negative mindset, sometimes you just can't get them out of pain, because it's almost like a habit of being in pain, right? You learn to be in pain and you don't understand how to get out of it, and because you've not experienced a pain-free state in such a long time, you know? So, and it is quite difficult, like, and people get deflated, and then, you know, you get depressed and then you get anxious, and the thing is you can get anxious about, like, just certain tasks in a day, like picking a coffee cup up. Is my shoulder going to flare up if I just pick this coffee cup up? And then people freak out, you know, and understandably so, 'cause it's such a simple task, and you're going, I should be able to do this, but I can't.
How do you deal with clients that come to you in that depressed state?
It's hard. I think the biggest thing is reassurance, first off, and like that you can get this sorted, and education is probably the biggest factor. But on top of that, it's the communication behind that, right? Like, being able to communicate that education in the right way is really key. And
that's very true.
Yeah. And then on top of that, I think the second biggest thing for me is trying to get them to have a positive experience with movement, with pain. If they, for instance, can't bend over and touch their toes without pain, or like say bend over and put their socks on or something like that, then how can we make a change very quickly to show them that actually it is safe to do that?
If you do this. And
Not necessarily, it's just that it is safe to do that, right? Because at the end of the day, unless you have like if you've got heavy damage, you've got stuff going on, of course, then it might not be advisable to say bend over because you're putting tissues that are damaged in a problematic situation. But for a lot of the time, especially with low back pain, like I think it's 95% of low back pain cases are not serious. They will get better on their own within, I can't remember the exact stat now, but like within like, I think it's like 3 months or something like that. But basically the point is they'll self-resolve, right?
Yeah.
Like just over time, they'll self-resolve. It's nothing serious. And usually it comes down to people then in those situations catastrophize things. They still continue to do things that aggravate it. They sit on their ass too much, like, you know, and they don't eat well, they don't sleep well. Like they're very highly stressed, and people don't really realize this, and they don't even know they're in that state sometimes, you know. Like it was like talking before we started the pod about sleep, right? How I sleep like 9 hours a night, and that's what's great for me. Some people sleep 6 hours a night. They feel like they're going good, but they're really not. They're actually crap. It's just that they're used to feeling crap, and they think that's normal, you know. And they think that's
their new normal
is.
In a way.
Yeah, exactly. They think that's what good is, right? So I think giving people an updated experience of movement, and that you don't have to be scared of movement. It's like, okay, if you have pain, be a little bit cautious and wary that, hey, okay, we don't want to push this too far, but just because you get a little bit of pain doing a certain task doesn't always mean there's an issue there. Like,
yes.
I mean, for me, playing on the synthetic pitches at the moment, my knees are honestly in all sorts. I walk upstairs and
they're copying it.
I got pain walking upstairs every day of the week, like every day. It's not that bad, but like it's just creaky. It hurts, like, because they're just copping and beating. But the thing is I'm still going to walk upstairs because that pain is just telling me.
Not.
Yeah, in my situation, that pain's telling me that my knees just aren't happy, but I can correlate what that's from, whereas a lot of people can't. That's the scary thing. It's the unknown. So sometimes you just need to update that belief system that, hey, movement is safe. We can do this movement with either no pain or little pain if we just change these things and we build you up, and then eventually you won't have to think about it. You'll just be able to do it again. Right?
Update that belief system. I like that.
I like that. I remember my physio, and this is something that's always stuck with me, that if you look at a pain scale from 0 to 10, and I don't know if you would agree with this, but I'm going to ask you anyway.
Go for it.
0 to 10, in terms of a pain scale, he said you can still work to a 6. Anything above that 6, you should probably start being a little bit more careful. But if it's like a 6 to 7 out of 10 pain, then it's okay to continue on.
I think it depends on how you define the 0 to 10. Because, so for me, I have the exact same philosophy, but I mark it off at 3 or 4, depending on the situation.
Is that depending on the person as well? Maybe
more so the condition, but person as well.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to take that into consideration.
Case-dependent.
But it's
so
a good
person and the injury.
Yeah,
Specific
it's a
as well.
good blanket way to give people a guide on how far they can push it. But like for instance, the pain scale is supposed to be 10 is like the worst pain you've ever felt in your life, right? And 0 is 0. People take that and they don't really comprehend what that truly means of like the worst pain ever, right? And also then sometimes as a practitioner, you don't know either. It's like, what's the worst pain? Some person might have just jammed their finger in the door and that's the worst pain they ever felt. Someone else might have been in a car accident and snapped their back in half and that's the worst pain they've ever felt. You know what I mean? So it's relative, right? And that is the hard part, but it's also the good thing about it because it's subjective to the person. But I personally like to cap it off at a 3 or a 4. You can probably, with some conditions and things and people and stuff like that, go up to a 6 or a 7. Maybe your physio only took you to a 6 or a 7 because he knew you would be able to tolerate that, right?
Tolerate a high level.
Yeah,
maybe.
he might fluctuate it a lot more than what I do, and that just depending on the person that comes through.
And the practitioner as well.
Yeah, I tend to blanket it at 3 or 4 just because I'd prefer to be a bit conservative. Especially early on and in the middle stage of treatment, and particularly in the middle stage of treatment, because in that situation, I suppose you're not really worrying about pain as much because pain should be gone. But in that situation, then people are symptom free and they push like crazy. So you still need some way to sort of rein them in. And then obviously on the flip side, you get people that don't want to push themselves at all. But the ones that push themselves too hard, they can go away, flare themselves up, come back and they go, what the hell's happened? I did everything you said.
They re-injure themselves or the rehab extends.
Yeah, well. Exactly. Yeah. And obviously when you flare up, you're just going to set yourself back a little bit. Time will depend on how bad. And that's going to annoy
them and then they're...
Yeah. So, but the thing is if you've communicated that, then that's the thing. It's all about communication. And they understand that, okay, this could happen. So this is life. Like pain flare-ups are just a part of life. Like I think with low back pain specifically, within 12 months, I can't remember the percentage base now, but like majority of people with low back pain will experience back pain once more, or will return at least once by the 12-month point. So you know that flare-ups and recurring pains are a natural part of life after you've had an injury. So and it was like there was a cool. So one of the guys I learned off of is a really top physio in the UK, David O'Sullivan. He said something. He goes, injury leaves legacy. So like when you've had an issue or an injury, like there's breadcrumbs there forever. Doesn't necessarily mean there's an issue there forever. That's a different thing. But it's just like there's signs that there's been something that's happened there. It's like, you know, if you break a glass and you put the glass back together, you'll see cracks.
There'll still be cracks.
Yeah, you're never going to be able to put it back completely this exact same to the original format, but you'll be able to get it back so close that sometimes you can't even tell. You know, like if you put it under a proper process and whatnot, sometimes you won't even notice the cracks unless you go under a microscope. And at that point, it's so negligible, then who cares? You know? So, because adaptation's a great thing.
How would you describe like a chronic injury? Is that sort of like your explanation there?
Yes and no. I suppose like chronic in definition is more than 3 months.
Like more than 3 months of rehab, or
more than 3 months of experiencing the pain. So that's the definition of chronic. And I'd probably say for most people, chronic becomes after 6 weeks in their mind. Like because 6 weeks is a long time to be experienced, especially if you've been experiencing heavy pain, right? So yeah, it's just that consistency of pain over time, or consistency of the condition, right? Like for instance, I was dealing with a tendinopathy last year, and it took me 6 months to rehab it. And I think I had it for 2 months before that. Yeah. And had it for 2 months before that. So like that was very, very chronic, right? And the hard part is when you get into chronic pain, there's a lot more factors that become more relevant. So not that they're not relevant before, but there's a lot of like mental factors and things like that in the way people approach the depression and stuff that can kick in as well. Like that has a big influence.
Being out of sport.
Not
being able to do what you normally would.
And to be fair, that's probably a big factor for a lot of people is when they can't do the things they love doing. You are naturally going to drop your excitement, your energy levels. You're naturally going to get into a bit of a depressive state and stuff like that.
Less active.
That'll cycle into being less active. You don't eat as well, maybe not, sleeping as well. And, and it starts toying with you. And because you can rile up your own nervous system very easily and you can calm it down very easily. But when you're in a state of chronic pain, sometimes it's very hard to get out of that fight or flight situation, and the body's just always up there. Even if you don't feel it, the nervous system's ramped up, and then it's like, how do you get that down? Like sometimes it's hard, you know. And for a lot of people, sometimes they don't see the way out, and that can be the worst part. When they don't see the light at the end of the tunnel, it's almost like, why bother? And then that's the worst situation to be in, because you're not willing to pull yourself out of it.
And you have to do that really sucks.
Yeah.
Like how do you coach that?
It's tricky. I think, again,
that's also case dependent, isn't it?
Yeah, because it really depends on the person, their situation, what they're doing day to day. Like, and I suppose that every answer for pretty much everything with this profession is it depends. But
I've noticed that, but it is how.
But it's true, right? So like you can have generalizations and stuff, but it is very case to case dependent, right? Yeah. And it's why care needs to be individualized. Like people chuck that around a lot, but then don't really individualize care. Like I've known people and even myself at times, you fall into complacency as a practitioner, like, I know this works, so I'll just do it to everybody. And not that you consciously think that, but it's just naturally somebody comes in with neck pain. I know what works for this. I've seen this before. But that person with the same neck pain as somebody else, they're completely different genetics, different lifestyle situations, different everything. So it doesn't always work. The one thing doesn't always work. But
one method that works for one person is never going to work for the next.
Yeah, well, not never, but like you do get similarities, because at the end of the day, the human body is the human body. Like people are very similar, but there's a lot of differentiating factors within that can dictate.
Like the way you coach it is going to be slightly different.
Yeah, how you cue things like that, and just maybe the time scale things as well. Because some people, they just naturally, if they move more, they're naturally going to have a better prognosis. They're going to progress better and heal better. But I mean, coaching is pretty difficult, because it's probably the education and communicating that is the biggest thing. Because if you don't do that, you don't frame it, you don't get people to understand. You don't get people to understand it, but you can't just jump into it, because at times there's some people can't really hack that as well, because especially if it's a new patient, first time through the door, they're probably shitting themselves just coming in because it's like, what's going on with me? I just want to get fixed. Hey, who's this guy? How's he going to be? Like, what's going on? Then you're also telling them, this is what I think's going on. And bang, bang, bang. And, you know, if you use some big words, then they're overloaded. And then you're going to go say, hey, you're depressed. I need you to stop being depressed. You know?
Oh, thanks, man.
Exactly. And I mean, I don't think anyone that has any sort of like depression or depressive episodes, I don't think being told you're depressed, get out of it, has ever helped anyone.
No.
So, you know, it's probably not the smartest way to do it, but you do it and as I said, it's sometimes it doesn't even come down to what you say. It's how you move, the tone of voice, and then the body language, and then also your choices of rehab, your choices of what am I going to get this person to do day to day. And as I said before, it's about the updating beliefs, updating their experience, and getting them to start associating a positive vibe or positive energy with something that has previously been negative in their life.
Yeah.
And usually you're never going to change this stuff very quickly. It's always a slow process. So like one example I have of a patient that came in about 3 months ago now. He had low back pain chronically I think it was going about 6-7 months. Was told it was a slip disc and all this, which by the way, that, you know, if anyone tells you got a slip disc, you don't, it's bulging discs because slip discs don't slip, but that's a conversation for another day. But basically, yeah, all these issues.
I feel like you fired up about that one.
I did because so
because
remember where we're at because I'll forget. Okay,
I remember.
Put a pin in it. I'm talking about my patient. Right, with he had a hip injury. All right, or low back. Sorry.
Yeah.
But basically, I do get fired up about that because, and I'll probably get some slack for this from people within my own profession, but the terminology used, and it's not just from chiros, there's osteos and physios as well.
Yeah, because I've heard it thrown around.
Yeah, the terminology used kills me, especially within the chiropractic profession. They used, you've got a misaligned spine. Like, it irks me so much because how the hell is your spine misaligned? And then they go, it's a postural misalignment. Like, for anyone that's read
I've heard that so many times as well.
For anyone that's read any postural research, your posture does not matter relative to pain for the most part. There are going to be postural factors. Like I did a deep dive on low back pain relative to posture after I graduated uni because in my head I was just like, how does me sitting in a slouch position cause me back pain? I don't know about you guys, but since I was born, I sit in a slouch position. It is so comfortable.
On the couch.
Yeah,
when you're at a desk, you're like 100%. Sort of hunched over.
And at uni, I remember they were going through like an assessment, and somebody goes, and the guy he said to the tutor, he's got a really rounded back. And she goes, sit up for me. And I go like that. And then she goes, does that feel like an effort for you? And I said, well, yeah, I'm sitting up. And then she goes, so relax. And I go down, and she goes, yeah, his spine just doesn't know where central is. And I was like, what the fuck does that mean? Like, what do you mean it doesn't? It is central. Everything moves around. Like it didn't make sense to me. So I went in on a deep dive myself through all the research and from a low back pain.
You disagreed with the teacher?
Yeah, I didn't disagree with her in the moment. I'm not that type of person. No. I don't know the
You're
balls
wrong,
for that.
miss.
Bite my tongue.
Yeah, I don't know the balls for that. But when I went into the research, it was like your posture does not cause low back pain. Like it is very clear, and it's like it's okay to slouch. It's okay to bend over. And you flex your back and round it and all this sort of stuff. And, you know, so it gets to me when people, you know, put constraints like that in place and they fearmonger and all of that because at the end of the day, it's a very good business model. You fearmonger someone into going, if you round your back, it's going to hurt. And, look at this.
My posture's misaligned.
Yeah.
I need to crack it.
Exactly. And, we need you to come in and get cracked 4 times a week for 6 years and then you'll be sweet. On what planet is that normal? I mean, I don't know.
No, I feel like it's a lifetime membership, that one, isn't it?
Yeah, literally, right?
Yeah.
I mean, at uni, we to learn to adjust joints, we do it on ourselves, right? And so we were doing it like 6 hours a week.
Are you doing it yourself?
No, like as in like if you and me were in the degree, I do it on you do it
Makes
on me.
sense.
Yeah.
Sorry.
6 hours straight that one. Maybe I have one too many adjustments. No, but you do it on each other, right? So 6 hours a week, 3 years straight. For me, it was 3 years, but for people that went through the chiro undergrad as well, it's 5 years, right? Your joints are not meant to have that many adjustments that consistently. It's an unnatural thing. And my back still creaks and cracks and feels a bit unstable from being adjusted at uni constantly. Yeah. So when I hear people,
oh,
I've been going 3 times a week for 3 months, I'm like, that's not good, you know?
Yeah.
I had a lady that she's got really bad whiplash chronically from a big car accident she had. And she used to go to this guy that she'd get adjusted and she'd go blurry and have double vision, right, for 10 minutes. And she goes, "Is that normal?" Like to the guy, and the chiro goes, "Oh yeah, that's fine." And I was like,
Sorry?
"What planet is that normal? Like you're getting dizzy, like
Dizzy spells,
blurry symptoms
yeah.
and double." And I was like, so I don't obviously crack a neck because it's like, well, all I'm doing is risking, causing a stroke and stuff. And it's like, I'm risking more damage, and for what? So, yeah, but I get revved up at it because the terminology is completely wrong, and the terminology that is used,
It's like a sales technique.
yeah, basically, and like that's not where it stems from, but it's what it's kind of turned into for a lot of what I see. But it also, the thing that irks me about it most is the messaging behind it. It's a bit fear mongering, and it's oh, this is scary, and and that's not what healthcare should be. Healthcare shouldn't be that.
Yeah.
It should be something that people are like, okay, cool, I'm ready to go. I know what I'm supposed to do. I can get out of this. Yeah, it's like it's supposed to be a bit empowering, right? Like the person, you're in pain, you can do heaps to get out of it. Like don't stress. Like we'll sort you out, or you can sort yourself out, more to the point. Because a lot of people can do it themselves, but obviously it's just a knowledge thing, right?
Yeah.
And that's why they come to us, because we've learned all this stuff, But that's also where it can get hard, because people are in positions of power, and as
with the doctor title
yeah,
as well.
and the average person, or authority, but power too. But the average person doesn't know about the body, doesn't understand these things. I mean, I was a great example as a teenager. My mum as well. She was a massage therapist, but she hadn't learned all this stuff. So as a teenager, all these injuries were occurring, and I'm not doing any rehab or very minimal rehab, and I'm just getting more and more injuries. And it's like, I didn't know any better, so I'm trusting the practitioner to tell me what I'm supposed to be doing, right? And if they're not telling me the right thing, I don't know. But it's only at a detriment to me.
You're just going to believe them because you're like, all right,
Yeah.
he's a doctor, he's qualified.
Yeah, and not to make people that listen to this skeptics of every allied health professional, because majority of allied health professionals are unbelievable at what they do, and they're very, very knowledgeable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Power and influence.
But it's like any profession, anything, you've always got the minority that do things
The wrong way.
and the wrong way, and they're doing it on purpose. And then you've got some that aren't doing it on purpose. It's just that's what they know, And that's
Yes,
the other thing.
exactly.
So,
Yeah.
because I refuse to believe a lot of practitioners,
And that's just human error.
yeah, exactly, and our biases and stuff like that. But I refuse to believe that there's a lot of practitioners out there that are purposefully making people not get better for money. I'm sure there's a few out there that do it, right? But for the most part, the vast majority wouldn't.
I don't think they're all doing it. for
No,
that reason.
exactly, right. So
They probably believe that 4 cracks a week is the right.
well,
way to
potentially,
do it.
right, because the philosophy
Because
of
that was a
chiropractic-
method before, right?
yeah, that was where
That's why it was seen as a pseudoscience in a way.
Well, it was a pseudoscience, right? And
Yeah.
again, people that believe this methodology would
Still
would
call
probably
it that.
would they'd probably it got disproven in the research plenty of times. And basically, the crux of it is it's called the subluxation complex, where essentially it's about the joint, the spinal segment, and you have the nerves and everything going through there. And basically, if you have a postural misalignment, that's going to put pressure on the nerve. The nerve is innervating everything. If you've got pressure on the nerve, the communication between the nerve and the body is going to be diminished, and that's going to cause you issues. So if I can adjust the segment and the piece of the spine that's misaligned, I'm going to fix the issue, right? And that's just not true. It's just not how the body works, right? And usually when there's a positive association of healing, a lot of the times it comes down to natural history, and the adjustments itself they're a very aggressive but very powerful technique, which can cause a big analgesic effect, right? And so you can have this diminishment of pain very quickly from it, but you're not fixing anything, right? It's like you're taking Panadol, right? And so it's going to take the edge off. And yeah, sometimes you do have situations where there is a joint that's just really locked up and it just needs a bit of a push and everything clears up, but that is rare. Most of the time it's a natural history of things. A lot of things get better on their own.
Yeah.
And it's just that we are facilitators in helping people get from
Point A
Schitt's
to
Creek
B.
now to happy days.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's there's a lot of, I suppose,
Nuance behind it.
yeah, and people misassociate things and miscorrelate things. You can, well, not miscorrelate. They miss the cause, right? And you can never be sure of the cause. You can correlate things 100%, but a lot of the causes on why did this actually happen is very hard to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I forgot where the story was.
Client lower back. I remember.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I remembered.
No, because I was
lower
talking about
back
that's right. I was talking about we were talking about the depression and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
not that this patient was depressed, but he was showing
a
he was like
chronic
in a
injury.
yeah, and he was a bit he was depressive about like the situation and what was going on. And basically, he came to me. It was a referral. Obviously all like, disc bulge with nerve pain and all this stuff. And basically came to me, one of the first things he said to me was, "You're my last hope. You need to fix me or I don't know what I'm going to do with myself for the rest of my life." And I went,
That's a big
That was a
statement
big
to
call,
make.
that one.
yeah, but the thing is I can understand it because he's been dealing with this for 6+ months. Like everything he's done hasn't worked, and a lot of the times what he
Find
has
us chronic
done.
now.
Yeah, and so, but what he's done previously, you're like, was it appropriate for him in terms of like, was it actually addressing what was going on, or was it just addressing symptoms? Because usually that's what it comes down to. It's like the things that are prescribed and what they're doing and the hands-on, the rehab, everything. It's just addressing it symptomatically, which you're never gonna then fix things long term in that situation. But in his situation, the low back was not nerve or anything like that. It was coming from his hips, basically. He had all this stuff going on and previously, which then led to his hips just being chronically tight. Like, people talk about being stuck in an anterior pelvic tilt, right? So if anyone doesn't know, like that's your pelvis sort of like rocked forward. Look up Simone Biles. She's locked into an anterior tilt because she's a gymnast and explosively powerful, right?
Yeah.
Kind of doesn't make sense. But anyways, but
There's anatomy.
Yeah. But basically, this guy was locked into a posterior tilt. He could not get out of a posterior tilt. And I mean, you guys that know, you ever try and go into any sort of hip hinge patterning with like RDL, deadlifting, bending over
With a posterior tilt, then you're cooked.
Yeah, exactly. Because then you're not allowing your hips to get involved. All you're doing is bending the hell out of your back and asking your back to do everything. So, and then in that situation, the back can't calm down. So
To
then
describe that to someone, that's sort of like popping your butt out, right?
Stick in your bum. No,
Like
the other way.
a nice. So posterior tilt is where you tuck your bum under, so your tailbone comes underneath your spine. Think of it that
so
way.
other way around.
Other way around.
Yeah.
Anterior
So
pelvic tilt is the other one.
Yeah,
where
the
your
area-
butt's actually coming out.
yeah, like the bony bits at the front kind of pop towards and your back gets arched.
Yes.
Right? So that's where a lot of people blame
Like an
that for an
Instagram
issue.
model. When they,
Like Instagram girls.
Bang on.
There
bang
we
on,
go.
Yeah. So, but this guy was locked into a posterior tilt. So for him,
The
it just
opposite.
it just didn't allow him. And to be fair, I'll be honest, most people are actually stuck in a posterior tilt. The people that aren't,
Most people.
majority of people that I've seen anyway have been more of a posterior tilt. The ones that are locked into an anterior tilt are your sportsmen that are doing explosive
More
sports.
athletics.
Yeah. So like for instance, I'm more of an anterior tilt dominant a person because I'm play football. It's very explosive, change of direction, stuff like that. I mean, you look at sprinters, same thing. Gymnasts, same thing. Dancers, same thing. But yeah, so this guy was locked into a tilt backwards and basically just didn't allow him to open up his glutes because you need to be able to flex your hip to lengthen the glutes out. If you can't lengthen a muscle, it's not going to load, right?
Yeah.
I always use the analogy like imagine you're trying to bicep curl, but you can only bend or extend your elbow to here. You don't expect the bicep to load
to do a lot of work
grow.
in a way.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to be able to because you're just not getting into a position that puts the muscle in an ideal spot to produce workload and produce force, right? So that was basically his situation. And long story short, it was on the third session, the first 2 sessions I've been focusing on his low back, trying to get the symptoms down. They went away for a day, then kept coming back. And the third session, I went, I've got to switch this up. And I basically took a deeper dive and I probably went a lot more focus on the glutes and the hamstring. And because the way I look at it is if somebody comes in, they go, my low back hurts, I need to get this sorted. I just need the pain gone. One of the things I always try and do is, okay, the low back's the pain site, whether it's the issue or not is another question, but it's the site of pain. So I need to work on that at least a little bit to bring the pain down. So then this person feels like, okay, we're getting somewhere, and then they're willing to go work on the root cause. You know what I mean?
And the root cause would probably be the hips or
for him,
back.
for him it was the hip, and the hamstring, I believe, as well, wasn't really doing too well. But basically, the hips were the main thing. Just him being able to tilt his pelvis in and out of a forward and backwards tilt.
Because that's a coaching cue as well. Teaching someone how to anterior pelvic tilt. And
So I don't know if you guys have heard this cue. The best cue I heard, which was from a guy called David Gray, which pretty much everyone in the allied health field would know his name, right?
He's mad, yeah.
Yeah. He basically cued a hip hinge, and he cued this lady that had no awareness at all. Like her hinge was awful. It was just basically the same as my patient, where it's just all back.
Yeah.
He cued it. He goes, I want you to move your sit bones. I want you to lift them or push them back and up. Sit bones back and up. And that's all he said. And then she went from like bending her back.
Oh, that's so smart.
Yeah. And I've picked that up about it. I only heard him say that a couple weeks before this patient came in. And when I was trying to get him to hinge, it was the same thing. And I cued that. And straight away he started getting into his glutes. And straight away his hinging and deadlifting pattern went from my back's tensioned and sore to, oh shit, my back's calm. It's just because now the for him,
Well,
his
he's doing the
glutes
right
were
form.
his glutes were taking up the load, and so that means the low back only had to do as much as it was required to do, no more, no less. So
There we go.
yeah, that and it's a big thing where, as I said earlier in this pod, if something down the chain or even up the chain isn't doing its job, something else will pick up the slack. This guy was his low back, so we had no nerve pain, no disc bulge, right, that was causing him pain in that moment. Maybe
No slip discs.
No, definitely not. But maybe he had that. Maybe he had a debulging disc at the start, 6-8 months ago. I don't know what happened.
Well, according to another practitioner, he probably did have a slip disc.
Yeah, and I said to him, I go, but see, for him, he's never had any back pain before this or anything like that. So for him, he might have genuinely bulged his disc out, had nerve pain,
But unrelated to the initial injury.
No, that potentially was the initial injury, right?
Okay.
And that has started this cascade of chronic low back pain, and potentially that bulging disc and nerve pains resolved. But then while that was resolving, the way his body's chosen to move has then shifted because it adapts around the pain, and his body's decided, okay, we can't move our glutes. I'm going to move my low back, right?
Yes. Okay.
And so we'll use our low back for everything. And when that happens, then the disc bulge goes away, nerve pain goes away, the movement strategy hangs around. All of a sudden, then he's still got low back pain. And so then it's like you think, oh, it's still the disc bulge. In his situation, I don't think it was. It was just that this movement strategy over time was then causing him pain because it was causing him to overload his low back. So
snowball effect.
yeah, exactly. And then once we got his hips moving, it's basically things started to stick. Then he started getting pain staying away for longer and longer and longer. And each session he came in, he was starting to get happier and happier. And I remember this actually, Liv was on reception this day. And after the third session, all I did was work on release his glutes and then just work on hinging with him. Like that was it. And at reception, he literally said to Liv, he goes, if I don't see results quickly, I give up. And I was just like, yeah, no pressure. I was like, shit. I was like,
let's hope this works.
Yeah, I was like, I hope he feels good after
Come on,
today's
David
session.
Gray, put me up here.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, for him, it was good. He completely solved his issues and stuff like that. But
there we go.
But basically,
Well, after that session, or is it?
No. So it was just we had
That was
made
like
good
the
strides
initial-
after that one. That was the turning point where I went, okay, I can't focus on the
Let's
symptoms
not focus
anymore.
on this. Let's focus on this.
Yeah,
instead.
I got to focus on the root cause because for him, no matter I focused on the symptoms, calmed down for a day, came back. So unless he was coming back 2 days later, there was no point working on the symptoms and then him coming back 1 week later or even half a week later because it was just he was getting back to almost the same point anyway. So yeah.
Being a chiropractor, what would be one bit of advice that you would give to someone that's currently injured at the moment watching this podcast?
Keep moving.
Keep moving.
People get injured and
Get
they
to
just
the
stop.
gym.
So in all honesty, so when you get injured, do what you can for where you're at. So and what I mean by that is
I like that.
Yeah, I'll use myself as an example. So as currently got a groin strain, and so it's 2 weeks out from doing it. Sorry, did it 2 weeks ago, and I went to the gym, did a session on it. I went to do on the cable machine, just did a straight adduction, right? Because it's up high in the proximal belly. So I was like, I'm going to do. Well, for people that don't know terminology, that means up near the pelvis, but it was just doing a straight, adduction, hip adduction, and I could do 5 kilos, and that was it. And like. For me, that was like 10% of like, not literally 10%, but it was quite light compared to what I potentially usually can do fit and healthy. So thing was, it caused me a little bit of pain, but it was like a 1 out of 10. So I was like, okay, cool. So I'm not going to cause any more tearing or any more issues. Let's just take it slow. I know speed of movement hurts. I know that loading it too much will hurt. So let me just go to a comfortable level where maybe there's a little bit of pain, but it's very, very minor and just sit there. And by the end of that session, I think within 3 sets, I went from being able to only lift 5 kilos on that first one to full shaking like crazy to then at the end, I think it went to like 12.5 kilos or something like that.
Wow.
And like, that's not a huge increase, but when you have an injury, like it is, but then it just shows you like, if you just go to where you're at, don't push the system too far, too hard or too fast, the body will open up. It's like mobility is the same concept. People try and stretch and push into more range. If you just work with what you got and let the system calmly sort of figure it out and you just shift things around.
Eventually it'll just do it on its own.
Yeah, doing things more relaxed than and without a huge amount of strain will do more benefit for you than you trying to force the system to do it.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I learned this the hard way as well because with hands-on, like with massage and stuff, I used to be very, very aggressive because that was how I got taught and it was very, very effective. But then when I got out into the real world, out of uni, it was effective, but it came at a price. Like people would be higher pain levels, they'd be in agony a bit longer. And, then also what I know now is their time frame, let's say they took a month to heal with something. Now I could probably get them down to 2 weeks. And it's because now I've figured out, or I've learned, that you got to work with the nervous system. You got to work with the body. You can't force it. You force the body to do something, it'll stick the middle finger up at you, and it'll say, "We're not doing this." So you got to nurture the body to make it feel safe.
10 every single session.
100% not. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's gradually, progressively overloading, right? You're just gradually exposing things. Yeah, you're just gradually exposing. Figure out where you're at. Push to that level. Don't go more unless you feel comfortable to. If you push more and it gets really stressful and straining and whatnot, then your body's probably not ready to go there. And just stick to a comfortable level. That's hard when you're a sportsman though, because
you always want to push yourself.
You want to push. So and this grind situation for me, it also that side of it came into it because we had round 1 last week, and my dad's my coach for the team. And we have a lot of injuries. There was a few people away, stuff like that. And he's like, I need you to play. And I'm like, I've got a torn groin. It hurts to walk. I don't think playing is going to be smart. Anyways, all week he was telling me, I need you to play. And I was like, no, I can't. And then last minute I kind of caved and went, okay, cool. All right, I'll play, because we had people pulling out last minute. Reserve grade had bare 11. We had I think 12 fit players. And then on the bench it was me and 2 others that were injured. So and I was like to him, just play me in an emergency, but and it ended up being an emergency. So I played for half an hour and I've set myself back. And so now this weekend I won't be able to play. And that's just because
of that.
So go to the gym, keep moving, go to Seib Chiropractic. Perfect.
And know your limits.
Know your limits.
Yeah.
Bro, thank you for coming on. You're very knowledgeable. Where can people find you?
So me personally, Instagram at Football in Cairo, and also on TikTok at the same thing. And then the clinic we have just at Seib Chiropractic on Instagram and Facebook. They're
Beautiful.
the main areas. So
Beautiful.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's good.
Cheers. Thank you guys for listening to this week's episode of the Evolve Podcast.
Brendan and I have loved having you throughout this whole podcast. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. And if friends are interested, share it around.
Yeah, make sure you share and tag us on your Instagram posts, and I'll see you soon.
See you guys. Little boogie to finish.